yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah.
Welcome back to That Effin' Sports Show. You guys already know we are going through the NFC West as we go through every team in the NFL on the way to opening day. We're doing it live. We get the team, we give you the prediction. Like, nothing's laid out in front of us. Even as we start right now, there are no games filled in except for the ones we've already talked about. We're predicting records for every team, and to make sure that we do a really good job, we brought in one of the best NFL writer for Sportskeeda at Adam Hulse Sports, Mr. Adam Hulse. Adam, how are you doing as we keep this rolling?
I'm great. And I mean, look, halfway through this NFC West, we got some interesting results, right? We're pretty different on the Rams. You know, one of us has them in the mix for a wild card spot. One of us definitely doesn't. It should come as no surprise that neither of us gave too many wins to the Arizona Cardinals, but how few wins are there may be a little bit surprising. So NFC West, interesting.
Hard to play, and we've brought it up before. They have to play the AFC North. They got to play the NFC East, and then they all have to play each other. The running theme throughout these predictions has been the schedule and how it's laid out. Didn't lay out very well for Arizona. Let's take a look at San Francisco. San Francisco, we know they did well last year. Strong team, changes at quarterback to the point that we don't even know who's going to start because of injuries. They lose McClinchy. They do add Hargrave over on defense. Defense was really the strength of this team last year, but now they have a new defensive coordinator. It's going to be interesting to see what the defense is, being that was their strength, but it's also going to be interesting to see how the offense responds to whoever they toss in at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the quarterback situation is the biggest one to keep an eye on for me. You mentioned the defensive coordinator. Look, we kind of said the same thing about the Niners when they went from Robert Saleh to DeMeco Ryans, right? Like, will they be as dominant with the change? They were just fine in that switch. Let's see if they can survive another one.
They've got a lot of power, especially on offense, but all around. They open at Pittsburgh. We've already done the Pittsburgh show. Make sure to go back and catch that. We actually gave San Francisco the loss because it's week one and because it's in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh often takes care of business against teams at home. The thing we leaned on a lot, I think, or at least I did in this game, is I don't know who's playing quarterback in week one for the 49ers.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal, especially against a team like Pittsburgh in their stadium week one with extra time to prepare to get some exotic defenses going. I give it to Pittsburgh.
And the thing is the quarterbacks are coming off injury. I mean, mini camps are going on right now. I don't think either quarterback is there really doing anything effective, maybe mentally preparing, but I don't think they're getting a lot of physical work in. Week two at the Rams, I gave San Francisco the win. You actually pulled a little upset there and say that the quarterback issues and the lack of preparation still kind of keeping San Francisco in a fog, and the Rams able to squeak one out here.
If the season started today, it looks like Sam Darnold would be their starting quarterback.
Exactly.
Sam Darnold's a disaster. I know it's Shanahan. A lot of people are saying, Kyle Shanahan, doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. He'll find ways to win. Some people forget that when Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt and Nick Mullins was playing quarterback, the 49ers were awful. Shanahan did not scheme his way to wins when Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt and Garoppolo was still that quarterback. If it's Sam Darnold, I think they struggle. That's kind of why I'm leaning Rams in week two.
I actually really love that comparison on paper. Darnold was supposed to be this amazing guy, and it just never panned out. And I do think Shanahan can help. I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. Giants in week three. Giants come to San Francisco. We've talked about the holdouts. Will Saquon be there? This honestly could be a good game. I mean, week three is a good time to come up against the Giants, as both these teams have question marks. Both these teams have people that won't have put in all the work and are still kind of physically ramping up. And we see that leg every year. Giants, San Francisco, week three. How do you got this one coming out?
Both teams have some question marks, especially early season question marks. But when I look at these two teams, I just think San Francisco's defense is so much better than the Giants' defense. And that's why I'm giving the 49ers their first win of the season.
This is one of those games where it matters who's at home for me. If this is in New York, I actually would give the Giants the win. But because it's in San Francisco, I am going to give San Francisco the win against the Giants in week three. We already gave them the win against Arizona in week four for obvious reasons. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Arizona because new coach, questions at quarterback, lots of replacements on the team. I really don't think Arizona should feel bad about all the losses they're going to take this year, because it really is just a year for them to figure it out. And San Francisco is not the team you want to be figuring things out against.
If you want to see how bad we both think Arizona is, go listen to that episode and try to find how many wins we give them.
Exactly. Dallas in week week 5. This should be a great game. This is where I want this game in week 5. San Francisco will have a quarterback by week 5. Will it be the right one? I don't know, but Purdy or Lance will be there in week 5. When Dallas comes to San Francisco, there's just no way Shanahan does not have one of those guys in there for this game. San Francisco, Dallas, classic matchups, historical, legendary matchups. I don't know if we're going to get a legendary game out of this one, but these two teams, they play tough. Both teams will show up for this game in San Francisco.
Yeah, that old school rivalry, throwback type of game. It's now re-becoming a rivalry again with these two teams meeting 2 years in a row in the playoffs. The 49ers got the better of the Cowboys in both of those playoff games. I'm giving the Cowboys the win here. I'm very high on the Cowboys this year. Full disclosure, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm a little bit biased. I think that the Cowboys off-season moves were very smart. Everything that they did this year, I think they're going to be a little bit better than some people are giving them credit for. And I think they're a better team than the 49ers this year. So give me the Cowboys.
I love this matchup. I love every year when it comes up. Memories of Montana and Rice and Aikman and Smith, Owens in the mix in there, Dion, classic Hall of Fame players all throughout. Because it's in San Francisco, I'm going to give San Francisco the win. Again, another one. Had it been in Dallas, I would have given Dallas the win because I agree with you. Dallas, I think, is going to be a formidable team this year. I think they're going to start getting it together. I think they've made a lot of smart moves. Only because it's in San Francisco do I give San Francisco the win here. You give Dallas the win, and we move on to week 6 at Cleveland. You brought it up in the last episode, mentioned it a couple times. I'm not that high on Cleveland because I just don't know what we're going to get. You have a belief that Watson can come back, and so I gave San Francisco the win in Cleveland. You actually gave San Francisco the loss because it was in Cleveland, and you believe Watson can come back.
I think Watson is going to be on his way back up. The game is played in Cleveland, so it's a game I think they'll be a little bit up for. And, I've mentioned it a few times already, and I'm going to keep it going. Like, even if all the 49ers quarterbacks are healthy, to me, it's still very believable that even with 3 healthy quarterbacks, that there's quarterback issues in San Francisco right now. Trey Lance has not shown yet that he can be a franchise quarterback at all. He hasn't been very good in his limited action. Sam Darnold's a disaster, and as good as Brock Purdy was last year, let's not forget that this guy was Mr. Irrelevant, right? He was the last pick of the draft. He was not a highly thought of prospect. Now, could he outplay what he was supposed to be? Of course he can. Or is he going to regress this year, kind of back to the guy that he was supposed to be? That could happen as well. I don't know what's going on with the 49ers quarterbacks. That's their big storyline all season long. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson in this one.
And it's those questions at quarterback that I'm actually going to give San Francisco the loss in Minnesota for week 7. I think San Francisco's better than Minnesota in every single category. It's one of those games that are at home for Minnesota, an away game for San Francisco. Are you as crazy as I am?
I'm going to go the other way on this one. This is the kind of game that I am going to give the 49ers the win for. To me, the Minnesota defense is still a disaster. It was bad last year. They didn't do a whole lot to get better this year. I think this is one of those games, especially up in those domes, that Shanahan's just going to run the ball down their throat play after play after play after play, and I don't think the Vikings are going to have an answer for it. So give me the 49ers.
Then it gets really fun because in week 8, Cincinnati comes to San Francisco. We've already given San Francisco the win, with which everything that we've talked about is extremely interesting. We are very up on Cincinnati. So to say that San Francisco is going to beat Cincinnati, and we both did it, so there must have been a reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, home field matters. And I think it was, if you go back and listen to that Bengals episode, we both gave the Bengals a ton of wins.
We did.
But it's kind of that idea that they're not going to go undefeated. They're going to have to lose a couple of games. This is one of those trickier matchups where they can lose, and we both did it.
Chalk it up to coaching. Shanahan just being able to outcoach this one. I don't know. Especially at the quarterback position, this one could be a reach, but we gave San Francisco the win. We're sticking to it. Week 9 gives the bye. Week 10, we give San Francisco the loss at Jacksonville. We know you're very up on Jacksonville. Go check out the Jacksonville episode. You can check out pretty much any episode and hear how up Adam is on Jacksonville. Kind of in a little romance love affair with T-Law this year. Jacksonville definitely appears to be your second team behind the Cowboys right now. That said, we both gave Jacksonville the win in Jacksonville.
Everything you just said about me and the Jags is 100% true. Everything you said about me and Trevor Lawrence, also 100% true. Except, full disclosure, my love affair with Trevor Lawrence goes all the way back to college. I fell in love with him when he was at Clemson. And the things he did with the Clemson Tigers and how awesome he was there, that's when I started started to love Trevor Lawrence. I believed all the hype since then, 4 years, and I believe the second half of last season, Trevor Lawrence has arrived. That was not a fluke. He was arguably the best quarterback in the NFL in the second half of the season. The Jags, one of the best teams in the NFL second half of last season. I don't think they caught fire. I think Trevor Lawrence has refound himself, and I think the NFL has to watch out this year.
And that's why San Francisco will lose in Jacksonville. They'll win when Tampa Bay comes to town. Baker Mayfield being the guy, whatever. And then San Francisco has to go to Seattle for week 12. This, again, is going to be a great game. These division games for San Francisco are going to be fantastic. In Seattle, just to foreshadow, even though we're doing this on the fly, I know they're going to have to play Seattle again, and I'm going to give home teams the win in both of them. So this being in Seattle, I'm giving Seattle the win.
Yeah, you just stole my thought exactly. This is going to be important divisional game, probably the two teams that are truly going to be competing for the division title. And I was thinking the same thing. It feels like a home-home split type of series.
So we both give San Francisco the win in Seattle. Will you give them the win in Philly? They go from Seattle, then they travel to Philadelphia. This should be a fantastic game. This one might get repeated in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game I want to give the 49ers the win in, but the game being played in Philly, I just can't do it. If it was in San Francisco, I'm taking the Niners. In Philly, I'll give it to the Eagles.
Yeah, maybe this is one that we shouldn't play the obvious, because I think because it's in Philly, because it's in the cold, Philly being a very solid team, I think McCaffrey's going to have a fantastic day in Philly for this one, but Philly at home, that's hard to pick. I'm with you. Then we get the other side of that Seattle split. So it's Seattle, Philly, Seattle. It's going to be a test for 49ers. We're going to see what we're really going to get at Seattle, at Philly, then home against Seattle. But we already talked about the split.
Yeah, I mean, you want your battle testedness, in my opinion, to come late in the season like this. This is like almost like a postseason warm-up for them, right? You're getting Seattle twice and Philly, teams that you're going to have to beat if you want to make a postseason type of run. They're getting it late in the year. Let's see what they're all about.
Because they win in Seattle, we essentially are going to give them a 5-game win streak to finish out the season. Give them the win against Seattle at home. They go to Arizona and get the win. We already talked about Baltimore coming to Seattle in a previous episode. A good game, but a game where we felt the defense was going to be able to win. Week 17 at Washington. I don't have a lot of faith in Washington doing much of anything, and so I give San Francisco the win in Washington. I assume you do as well.
Absolutely. The game's going to be important for the Niners. Washington's probably going to be completely out of it. They'll probably benefit more from losing to get a better draft pick. So give me the 49ers.
We've already given them the win at home against the Rams. So coming out pretty well, finishing on a 5-game win streak. I've got them losing 5. You've got them losing 7?
Yes, I have them at 10-7. That much needed 5-game winning streak for me, because they went into those last 5 games with just a 5-7 record. Probably panicked by a lot of 49ers fans. Like, are we going to really miss the playoffs with as good of a team as we have? But, let's be honest here. If San Francisco finishes the year on a 5-game winning streak, you already know everybody's going to be talking about the 49ers being the true Super Bowl contender this year, right? If they catch fire, win 5 games at the end of the year, they're hot going into the playoffs, they'll definitely be a team to watch out for.
And we talked about these schedules. I keep bringing it up because we're doing this live. The schedule sets up nice for these guys at the beginning. You got Pittsburgh, Rams, Giants, Arizona before they hit Dallas. And then at the end, they've got Seattle, Arizona, Baltimore, Washington, and the Rams. Good start, good finish to the season. As long as they can grab a few in the middle, should be good enough for a wild card spot. We should see San Francisco at the postseason. 12-5 for me, 10-7 for you. We'll see what happens with San Francisco. We're going to continue to see what happens in the NFC West and the rest of the NFL as we go through this team by team, division by division. We're going to predict the records. We're going to see who's going to make the playoffs. We'll probably let you know who's going to make it to the Super Bowl, and we may even tell you who's going to win that. Make sure you catch every episode at That Effin' Sports Show, keyword EFIN on YouTube or wherever you catch your podcasts. Go check Adam Hulse out. Find all his stuff by going to @Adam Hulse Sports on Twitter. He's an NFL writer for Sportskeeda. You can find him over there as well. Join us next time. We'll finish out the NFC West and figure out who's going to win this thing. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.